This is Untether.tv, where we get inside the business of mobile. Here's your host, Rob Woodbridge.
Hi everybody, welcome to Untether.tv, where we get inside the business of mobile. I'm joined today from Austin. Is that where you are, Worley?
That is correct.
Okay, from Austin, Texas, by Worley, who's the CTO and co-founder of Chaotic Moon, which is displayed very prominently across his chest. So welcome. Thank you for participating in Untether and telling us your story, Worley.
Well, thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me.
I'm intrigued by a Chaotic Moon. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, I think we could spend a whole day talking with you about a number of things, but a few of the things that I'd like to cover with you, very specifically around, some boring stuff like trends you've seen in the industry around mobile, what you're doing with Chaotic Moon. That's not boring, but the outcome of that, what you've heard from your customers, that stuff. But I'd also really like to talk to you about augmented reality and where you were last week in Santa Clara for the augmented reality event and what your views are on that, and spend a good amount of time, because I think people are trying to figure out what all that means. Is that a good enough agenda to? That
sounds like a great agenda.
So why don't we talk about Chaotic Moon? How did you end up there? How did you get into mobile? Where do you come from? You've been everywhere. You're IBM, Apple. So let's start with your history, if you don't mind.
Not a problem. So I started my career early on in Apple. I actually moved to Austin around '93 to work for Apple. And I had a variety of jobs there. The two most prominent were I managed all of Apple's internet training online, and then I also ended up in research and development.
Okay.
And so I left Apple R&D in '97 to go to IBM, and I was an IBM master inventor, which is kind of an almost cultish thing there, but in my opinion, and I'll share with everybody, no offense to any IBMers, what it really means is I did a lot of patents and technology work that made them a lot of money, and they were like, "You're a master."
Did you get a ring, or did you get like a tattoo?
Actually, I did get a ring with a little symbol on it that I still have in my home, like my little the good old days shelves, where I was like, man, I get paid a lot, and I do really creative stuff, and I work like kind of a standard schedule. And then, now at Chaotic Moon, it's like, I don't ever not work.
There's no off time.
But how did Chaotic Moon come about? Like, how did I end up here?
Yep.
3 years ago, I was doing a lot of things, bar camps. I run Bar Camp Austin, which is one of the larger bar camps in the world. And, I'm very much in the open source and open innovation and community. And about 3 years ago, a friend of mine named Raven Zachary called me and said, hey, we should do a dev camp for the iPhone. And, I thought that was a great idea. And he and myself and Chris Messina and some other guys got together, and we did iPhone dev camp. And so we got about 480 developers together at Adobe's offices, ironically, a week after the iPhone was released.
And is that the last time an iPhone's been in Adobe's office?
I have no idea. It's kind of, in hindsight, it's kind of like, wow, that sounds weird saying that now.
Yeah.
But it was a really great event. We had about 480 developers. As you know, at that point, they didn't even have an SDK. Yep. It was like, okay, you can only kind of do web apps. Let's hack around. And a bunch of those videos are still out on Blip TV and a bunch of places you can see the apps that people made. It was a really exciting time. And I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision of, do I leave my job and do the mobile thing? I've known that I wanted to do mobile. I did mobile stuff. A variety of areas. I mean, at IBM, I actually held a couple of patents that were related to mobile stuff and one to mobile photography. I'd been watching it, but the market really hadn't matured, and there was nothing, to be blunt, that was very sexy or exciting about it. Mobile phones were kind of bland, prior to the iPhone, yep. And there was limited opportunity, right? There wasn't a marketplace. There wasn't a lot of stuff to do. And I made a decision based on some advice that a mentor of mine gave me, and I've learned several things in my technology career. I've been doing it almost 20 years, and one of the most important things I learned was when at Apple, I learned that often pioneers get arrows in the back. And I thought, do I jump into this and start a development company? I don't really want to be a consultant. I don't really want to be a services kind of thing. I'm very much a product guy. Or do I wait? And after much deliberation, I decided that what I would do is wait, let everyone else go take advantage of the gold rush, because eventually what would happen is there'd be a bunch of people who were in dismay and disarray and there would be a strategic advantage to when you entered the market. So it'd be just mature enough. There'd be a bunch of property that you could either acquire as a company or fold in. There'd be a lot of talent who quit their jobs who 2 years later were like, man, I need a job again.
Sounds like the dot-com bubble, right?
Yeah, that's just the honest truth. So a partner of mine, Mike Irwin and I, we'd been business partners for some time. We worked together at Apple. We decided to join forces, and we formed, kind of the basis of Chaotic Moon. And I just kept doing the camps. I did the pre-dev camp. I did, help with some Windows type activities. Did a bunch of stuff around whatever mobile platforms I could. And as we came together, I really started saying, well, what's a trajectory for when to enter the market? And based on where I was at my current job and where I wanted to go, it looked like 2010 was a good time. So in November of last year, I left my job. I took a couple of months off, right at the end of the year, which was great. And then January 15th, Chaotic Moon hit the ground running. And then about 3 weeks ago, we actually took the time to build a website and put a phone number.
That's great.
Because when we opened up, when we just said, like, we're doing this, we had about, I think it was north of 800 inquiries within the first 30 days. It was like we couldn't even process that. It was like, we don't really need a website. It's not stopping people from calling us.
No, in fact, it's probably a detriment to have a website at that point.
Yeah, right.
Stop.
And I was fortunate to be able to work with an incredible collaborator, Ben Lamb, who's a co-founder and chief creative officer. He used to own a company called Simply Interactive. He's done interactive work for Whirlpool and Genentech and all of these huge companies and giant brands, and he has an amazing creative team. And I had met him at South by Southwest here in Austin in 2009 in March. And we just hit it off, and then I introduced him to Mike, and it was like, this is the guy this is the component we're missing, right? He makes everything look great. He's a really creative guy, and he's got all these ideas, and he came, with some other guys, Chris Dick, who's our creative director, and really amazing creative team. We're like, well, this is something that's going to really help distinguish us, because the company basically has 4 services, right? Mm-hmm. We have mobile strategy, and that's wide and deep, and the wide part is, Ben going out to all these brands and talking to them about what they should and shouldn't do in mobile and where they should be. And the deep part is I've got a bunch of ex-Apple and IBM R&D engineers, myself and our chief scientist, Steve Smith, both came out of Apple R&D, who can go all the way down to like protocol level packet, switching and stuff in, the big backbone routers that power all of this. So AT&T and Lucent Alcatel and Verizon and all that, we can, go toe-to-toe with any of those engineers. So that kind of makes us look a lot, to a lot of people, it makes us look kind of strange. They're like, how do all those people actually get along in the same office? but it makes us very different as a player in the mobile space, because we can go and work with a Qualcomm or an ARM or somebody on literally chip level stuff. Yeah. Several of our engineers were on the Somerset project when Apple first started building its own PowerPC chips. Yeah. So we've got those guys, and then we've got these amazing creative guys that have done work for just everybody you can imagine. But the thing that's probably most interesting is the other 2 services, which are one, content publishing, which we do in a kind of a unique way, and then App Resurrection, which is our best service, which is you went out and spent a bunch of money to have somebody build an app. You find out that they just use some script engine or whatever, and now Apple wants it out of the store, or it doesn't, it can't be ported to Android or Windows Phone or anything easily. So you give the code and all the assets to us, and it's kind of a Wizard of Oz approach, and we go behind the curtain and we decide what your app should look like and feel like and work like, and recreate it from the ground up and re-release it with some demonstrable improvements, but also with some measurable goals for success. Being a manager at IBM and having most of our engineering staff and our management team either be people who have managed and delivered very big products, internationally, or people who are entrepreneurs who have run their own business up to several millions of dollars a year in success as far as what the business was doing. We're always focused on people we work with on the return on the investment, not just in their time and their money, but in the credibility. I mean, we work on the content publishing side with individuals that sometimes they just have an idea, and there's a bunch of people that will rip you off. We just did an interview with the LA Times that should be printing, I think, next week, about individuals who have ideas but they can't get into the market. Well, we help those people. If it's a great idea, there's 3 founders. we give them up to 25% of the share in the profit. We treat them kind of like the fourth founder, if you will, and we'll make their idea and help them push it out. And that is an amazing feeling, you know, when you're able to take somebody who felt like they had no options and no opportunity. And there was one guy, from the time he signed up to the time he delivered his app was 9 days, okay? And it's been really, really successful. And that's because we don't just sell apps for 99 cents. We have Kareem Fergali, who's our senior vice president of licensing. You know, if you read his resume on the bio, he's done licensing with everything. You know, he's touched LucasArts and Activision and all these game companies, but also all these huge brands like Sanrio and all these other stuff that he's done relationships with. So it's something where, you know, an individual doesn't just have to worry about, you know, is it going to sell enough 99-cent copies? Because let me tell everybody listening, you're not going to make money selling apps at 99 cents.
No, you aren't.
There is no how, no way. Like
well,
if you get into the top half of percent, okay, there's tons of money there. Your app will not do it, okay?
but even at 99 cents, even if you're up there, you have to sustain it. It's like, this is one of the things that I talk a lot to a lot of appreneurs who are doing this and driving their price down to 99 cents just to get volume, and they're going to be out of business in a second, right?
Yeah, well, and you know what? But they don't have to be. We can help all of those people. We're not building a company. We're building a community, and there's a huge difference, right? Yep. Everybody's part of the family. We have people who work here full time. We have people who just come with ideas. We have, you know, every kind of interaction that you can imagine. But, you know, I'll tell you a story about the 99-cent thing.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, last year in November, I just quit my job, and I was doing my last presentation. And the presentation was I do a presentation called "People Buy the Shovel, but They Want the Hole," right? And that's kind of my software methodology, right? Which is, people, you know, you can build a better shovel with a GPS and a laser pointer and all that. You've just made it harder to dig a damn hole, okay? Yeah. People aren't using your software for the sake of using your software. They have something they're trying to do. Yeah. And so I was giving this presentation. It's an audience of about 2,500. In the front row is a lady with her iPhone. She's clearly very frustrated. She's just like, you know, and she's hitting it. And I come off stage, you know, I was coming on as the last keynote, so there's like a 10, 15-minute break. And I go down there, I take the phone, and I say, oh, well, you know, the 3G's horrible in here. Let me get you on the wireless. So I get her on the wireless, I fix the other thing, here you go. She's still very frustrated. Says, it doesn't work. I go, I'm sorry, I don't understand. And she goes, you're right, you don't understand. And with a Starbucks coffee in this hand and her iPhone in this hand, she goes, I paid 99 cents for this. And a light bulb went off above my head. Had I just made the wrong career choice? Because this woman, her coffee cost 5 times as much as this piece of technology, okay? And so I went home and I told my girlfriend, Sonia, it's like, maybe I've, you know, like, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I'm not as smart as I think. And I told her that story. And she goes, don't worry about it. She goes, you know what you're doing. You've been doing this a lot. You've had a great career. She had bought me some Milk Duds and a Wired magazine. Yeah. So she buys me a Milk Duds and a Wired magazine. I kid you not. I sit down to read Wired. And in the back is an app review for the TomTom app. Yeah. And it says, Wired. Amazing. Does all this great stuff. You know, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Tired. Ludicrously expensive. Yeah. $99.
It's incredible.
Okay. Now let's put it into perspective. Yeah. This is an app that lets a magic device in your pocket talk to freaking space, okay, to find out where you at, you know, on a planet that's spinning around at 1,000 miles an hour. And we just take it for granted. We just say, you know, what? I mean, even if it were 99 cents, people would be like, oh, it's $1.
Forget that. Yeah, that should be free.
Exactly.
Directions are free.
So your 99-cent guys are going to be driven into this commoditization of like the new price is free, right? And then they're going to want to all go out and say, well, how do I monetize that? Oh, I'm going to put ads. I'm going to do this. Well, you know what? People don't want that. People want the free app with no ads to give them just what they want and instant gratification. And it makes it a very difficult market. I mean, fortunately at Chaotic Moon, we have kind of a unique approach, which is we have a team that looks unlike any other on the planet. I mean, Steve Smith spent 14 years in R&D at Apple. He's been delivering software for almost 30 years now. In fact, we're about to have a little party for his 30th year in software, and and we've got Ben, who's super creative, but he's only 28. And our little joke in the office is always when we get in one of those healthy debates among teams. The development team likes to remind the creative team that, well, Steve has been building these since before you were born, right? Which only serves to upset Steve because it makes him feel old, and it only upsets Ben because it makes him feel like they discount all of his experience. So, but these guys, this 99-cent dilemma, it's amazing. If I would have had TomTom 3 years ago prior to the iPhone, $99 would have been the miracle app.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a really unique time that we live in as software developers, and as you called it, I like your word, appreneurs. What'd you call it? Appreneurs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really unique moment in time, and it's going to be very hard. I see everybody running out to get in the gold rush still 3 years later, not realizing that there's not a lot of sustainability. It's very hard. I have the benefit of having a partner who's done services now. One of our guys, he's done services business for 30 years. So our service side is solid. We know how to set expectations. We know how to deliver. We know how to do all of that stuff. But a lot of these companies, I go to all these conferences. I won't say where I was at. I was at a big national meeting for a network, a television network. And I was one of the speakers, and there was another guy who was a speaker, and he's from an app company also. So I get up and I talk about what I'm supposed to talk about, and he gets up and says, like, our company's great, and we're awesome, and we could do all this stuff for you. And it was kind of a sales pitch, and that was cool. So he, afterwards, he's talking to some people, and just hearing the expectations he was setting with some of these executives, it's like, absolutely, millions of downloads. We could do this, we could do that. The revenue share, it's going to be so much. I want to do a revenue share with you, all that stuff. And I'm just sitting there listening, going like, I don't know what app store you're in because I monitor everything really, really closely, and we have some amazing, huge, major brands. Okay, yep. Some of the things we have done have millions of downloads, no doubt. They're great. Some of those things had $10 or $15 million put into the overall campaign they were a part of to make that happen.
There's no return there.
Yeah, it's like you're not gonna, you're not just gonna roll out and the floodgates of people open, and that's what really I think is the hardest part of conversations to have with people is in our App Resurrection portfolio, we also go and index all of the stores, and we find apps that are great concept, bad code, good art. Yeah. Great concept, good art, bad code, right? These variants. We have a system at Relevance Ranked, and we actually have a system that we're patenting that we wrote that looks at the screenshots and judges quality based on just that. So we index and we pull all of this in, and then we approach you and we say, Rob, we think your app is a great concept, is a great idea. We'd like to work with you on it, and we'd like to acquire it. We'll give you 25% of everything it ever makes, and that's not just sales. That's any licensing we do, which can be some really substantial money, very substantial money. And there's no downside for you because in most cases we say, hey, if you want to keep selling your app, you can keep selling your app. Okay. Yeah. All right, and in most cases people don't. They shut it down, and we rename it and rebrand it. Yeah. But there's no downside for you at all. So everybody does that deal. We have other people who have tried to imitate us, and it's like, well, see, here's the problem. You have to have quite a team to be able to convince people to do that, and you also have to have something else nobody else has, which is a track record. Yep. I have individuals I can send them to that in fact, some of them have never even met other than video conference like this, who can say, here's what I signed, and here's what I did, and here's what the first check looked like. And that's people, right? The thing is, these expectations he was setting on these millions of downloads, what happens when that customer 6 months from now, comes back and says, well, we spent a whole lot of money with you, and we got 20,000 downloads, not 20 million, and the ads don't make any money. Yeah. And whatever the case may be, right? We have a bunch of 1-star, 3-star reviews, right? Because people aren't. In addition to that, people aren't happy with the app because we didn't go out and talk to them first. And I can tell you, I know exactly what happens to those customers. They become customers of Chaotic Moon. I have 5 of them, this week that we did deals with that basically are already in the App Store. They're easy to find if you search for 1-star reviews. If you know how to, and I have thousands and thousands of them, and they'll bring their app to us, and then again, it's With that process, it's more like you've had your shot as a creative and a marketing team. Why don't you let us do it, right? I mean, combined, you're talking about hundreds of years of experience in this office building of interactive campaigns. And I mean, even myself, I wrote the first book on Flash when it was called Shockwave.
Nice.
And I was on the team at Apple that did that. So we understand a lot about a lot of things, especially when it comes to the cognitive science models and stuff. I don't know what you checked out about our site, but the person I probably get along with famously in the office, even though many times I'm just like, yeah, whatever, that makes no sense to me, is a guy by the name of, we call him Doc Mo around here. His name is Dr. James Moshinsky. He's actually the tenured Accenture professor of human performance at a major university, and he helps us with interactive mapping and modeling and what are the age groups and things like that. Because I'll tell you, our biggest customer age group is 16 to 36 months. Yep. Huge, and I just took a picture I can send you for your website if you want for this interview. I was asked by a guy named Alan Patricoff, who's a guy who funded AOL and Apple and a bunch of other stuff, to come out to the Hamptons this week, and which was great. I've never been there, and I've heard all these things. It wasn't quite what I expected. It was very laid back. It was like I was out in the country, just 20 miles that way, except there was an ocean and there were horses. But there's horses there too. So
there's no difference.
Really, there wasn't a lot of difference.
It was just called the Hamptons, not the country.
There were 5-pound lobsters at dinner. Right. And I don't know if you've ever seen one. Yeah. I had not. I was like, oh my God, do I have to fight it to the death? What's going on?
No, they pay people to do that in the Hamptons, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes, someone came up and killed it for me. But he invited me out to speak to a group of CEOs that he's invested in, and it was really, really interesting hearing their perspectives on mobile, how fast they're ready to get into the market, how some of them aren't ready to get in the market, what their expectations of these are. I mean, I keep harping on expectations, but these expectations are just incredibly out of whack in this market. Both from the side of developers who think they're going to make it rich, and customers who you now have a situation. I mean, I've done a lot of work in the enterprise where the CIOs are having their CEO come to them and say, hey, remember that project you spec'd out? You said it was going to be 9 months and $2.6 million. Well, I found this app for $9.99, and it seems to do all of the same stuff, right? I mean, it looks the same.
Yeah.
Why don't we just hook up 10,000 copies of this?
Yeah.
And it's like there's going to be a very interesting moment by my estimation in about, I'd say, 12 to 16 months. We see most of the companies doing apps now fall out of existence, and you see kind of this resetting of expectations, and you see the trend of that starting with the iPad.
Yeah.
Right? The apps are more expensive.
Yes.
Are they more expensive because they're bigger? Well, I mean, I don't think they have more code in them, or
Right now they are, right?
But what's the number one complaint about iPad apps? $3.99?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I know, exactly.
And it's like,
well, not if you've seen my credit card bill, because it's it's thousands of dollars in applications, and I think there's only you can only conceivably spend $1,000 or $2,000 in apps, and I've done it, right? So
yes, exactly.
But you're right. You brought up do you think that what's going on right now? It sounds an awful lot like it was when after the fallout of the .com, when everybody looked at the internet and said, We put all this money into the infrastructure and building these services online, and then give it up. And then you saw a resurrection, literally 18 or 24 months later, where the good business models or the good uses of the internet surfaced again, and now we're seeing businesses being able to stand on their own, with this whole Web 2.0 revolution. And I'm starting to see that in mobile.
Yes, I absolutely agree. But even in that kind of Web 2.0 revival, right, that you're talking about, you have to look at it and you have to think, have you seen the Richter Scales song, Here Comes Another Bubble, right? You have to look at some of those valuations and go, is Facebook worth more than Ford? I don't know, because here's the deal. I know about what their revenues are. I know that everybody thinks they're incredibly valued. Speaking of overvalued, we'll talk about Apple in a minute.
Yeah.
But if I took all of the assets, we come from a very old school entrepreneurial background. So if we took all of the assets, okay, all of them, and we said, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to sell everything in this building. We're going to sell it all. The chairs. Do you own the chairs? you own the building? Do you lease the building? Whatever. If you did that with Facebook and Ford, I would be willing to bet everything I have. Ford has more tangible assets you would actually derive money from, okay, in a fire sale. And that's funny because you're right though. There is this revival. There's now going to be this period where everything falls out, and then kind of reality sets in, and it's not a magic pill, and then everything will, I think, kind of reinvent itself, if you will. Well, we kind of feel like we're the first wave of that early because having been through the technology cycle numerous times, we see it's a very cyclical pattern, and we hope we've come in right at the right point to where when that happens, 12, 16 months down the road, whatever it is, then we already have a nice business history, a nice customer base, and a nice model, because the app market in 2014 is supposed to be valued somewhere around $25 billion. And so, we'll take 20.
That's it. We'll just help it. And, I question those numbers as well because, I think
I would question those numbers a lot. In fact, that's my standard answer. It's funny because I interviewed with one of the financial press, and they said, well, it's going to be worth $25 billion. I said, well, if that's the case, we'll take 20, right? That's kind of my joke. It's like, if you can pull a number out of your butt, I'm just as capable of pulling a number out of mine.
I'll take 80% of it, yeah.
Absolutely. And so, will it be worth $25 billion? Who knows? I mean, it could be worth $100 billion, or it could be worth not even $1 billion, right? I mean, these things are, speaking of mobile and valuations, I wrote an op-ed for Business Week on the Palm Pre. Yeah. So very infamous situation. Giovanni Gallucci and Dan Rumney and I form pre-dev camp. Palm goes through, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. All of these mistakes are made. I finally say, I'm out. If you're going to disrespect the community, I can't deal with you. Palm then does some other stuff that I have an agreement not to talk about. And in a classic, you never know who you meet on the internet. Business Week calls that same day and says, hey, would you like to write an op-ed about the Palm Pre? and I thought to myself, sure, I would like to do that. And then Barron said, Palm shares slide on Business Week, hatch a job. And basically gave me credit for sliding the shares of Palm $800 million in, like a 6-hour period. And I mean, there were calls from the SEC and there were calls from reporters. And, my boss at the time was like, oh, my God.
What have you done?
Right. And the thing was, okay, that's the part of the funny money about all these expectations. It's like, okay, first of all, they never had that value. And second of all, if I were able to do that, I would be working here. I would be working from like an island somewhere with like kind of secret accounts. And, if I really had the magical power of being like, is that your market? Crush. I would have a totally different career.
And your name wouldn't be Whirly. It would be something like God.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's like, so there's these ridiculous assumptions we make in the mobile market with everything from the valuations of the companies that exist now to what the market will be worth and all of these things. It's like, so let's say that the free 99-cent paradigm goes. $25 billion sounds like an awful lot of money to me at 99 cents a pop.
It's incredible. Well, I don't. Maybe the mobile space, right? This whole mobile software space could be worth or add $25 billion to the economy, but it's not in app sales per se. It could be that it helps a company or a company benefits to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars as a result of mobilizing their workforce or saving money over here. Like I think that there's definite, and you do too. I know that, and most people in mobile, there's a value to mobile.
Yes.
But it's not so much in app sales at $1.99 or 99 cents as much as it's going to change the way that we work or we interact with life, right?
Well, this is where I'll bring you back to what you said a few minutes ago.
Okay.
The web.
Yeah.
Mobile is our version in this decade of the web.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it's useful. It's not a magic pill. It's not going to do anything. Yes, everybody's going to have it over the next few years. But what we learned with the web was, big bubble, crash, reality sets in. Now we find ways to use it. And by the way, there's still people who complain about all manners of things we haven't fixed with just the web in general yet, right? Mobile is going to even be more of a insanely messed up situation. And as far as the market value goes, the argument for saving that money, I hear that all the time, and that's true. I mobilize the workforce. The people can do this, people can do that. We, on demand, all of this stuff. You really look at it and you say, okay, but that's not what all these articles say. What these articles say is there's going to be a $25 billion market.
Yeah.
Okay? And the fact is that the only way that could happen, in my opinion, is if tools were king again. And so take Adobe. Adobe's worth about $28 billion, okay? And they make tools for graphic people and for web people, and right? And so if you had that kind of thing going, maybe over 10 years, not,
a drop in the pan.
Right. Maybe you could do that, possibly. However, the thing that's really, really interesting to me is people don't look at the actual economics of it. Apple doesn't charge me $2,600 for the tools I need to do my work on the iPhone.
Yeah.
Android doesn't charge me. Okay. Windows Phone charges me the same $99. Okay. So you look at these things and you think to yourself, that's not where the money is. Apple knows precisely where the money is. I mean, to a science. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And by the way, Microsoft, I think, is going to come back out of nowhere with Windows Phone 7 because they're taking pages from the Apple book. They clearly see, they're like, wait a second, we know that. And what an interesting time we live in. For the first time in history, Apple is worth more than Microsoft. Okay?
Incredible.
Apple is worth more than Sony and Nokia and 3 or 4 other companies, take your pick, combined.
Yeah.
Okay?
I know. But you're right. You don't discount Microsoft. It's the way I kind of describe Microsoft is a glacier, right? And they don't stop. Yes. They just continuously move forward. They might make mistakes. They might slow. But ultimately, you wake up one day and you're surrounded by ice, and you say, "How did I get here surrounded by ice?" Which is Microsoft, and they don't lose. These guys.
And that ice is all labeled Xbox.
Exactly.
Right? Because let me tell you what. The moment I learned. Obviously, we do work. We can't talk. We do work with Microsoft. We're supporting that platform. Yep. You can read plenty about my opinions of Microsoft on the internet. They know I'm not. I've given them credit where credit is due at times, and I've been their worst. They're just like, God, will that guy not shut up? but when I heard, hey, my phone will basically be an extension of that Xbox thing, that's when I knew they had it right. Yeah. That's when I knew they got it, because most of the money made in app sales in the app stores on casual games anyway. Right? Yep. And Microsoft is going to leverage the Xbox platform in a tremendously powerful way.
Yeah. And it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing.
And in 4 years, Sony will be like, wait
a second.
They switch with the phone, and then it won't work. And then, have you seen that? It was funny at the event that I spoke at, that I was referencing with Alan and his CEOs. I took kind of a big chance because I don't, they're very prim and proper in the Hamptons. I played them the Onions video of Sony. You should put a link to this in the interview.
Okay.
The Sony product release. Have you ever seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's the Sony. It's like a news report. It's like Sony today, released their big piece of shit or whatever. It's like, let's do the damn thing it's supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of started with that. It's like, it's not to beat up on Sony, but it's like all of these mobile companies that haven't already. If I would have worked at some of these companies. I think about how we reacted when I was at IBM. If I would have worked at some of these companies and I would have seen what Apple did in 2007, the next week, half my team would have been fired, and it would have been like, here's what you have, 6 months to figure out what we're doing.
Yeah.
3 years later, there's no real contender. This is insanity.
How is that possible?
It's incredible. I'll tell you how it's possible. When I was at IBM, I developed a technology theory for how technology becomes pervasive and how it propagates through the market. Yeah. And part of that theoretical, kind of approach was, well, companies as a system model are afraid of risk. The job of a corporation is to mitigate risk, right? From the very fact that you're a corporation can mitigate risk against lawsuits and individuality, so these are organizations made to mitigate risk in a market that rewards risk, right? And so there's this kind of natural paradox that happens where I think you have companies who have the capability. Nokia clearly has a capability to do 1 billion things they're not doing.
Yeah.
They're the giant. I mean,
they can do anything. Yes.
Not this last keynote, but the keynote before, when Jobs put up on the screen, we're bigger than Sony, we're bigger than this, we're bigger than that. Did you see that presentation?
Yeah, I did.
And he put the Nokia logo up. He said, bigger than Nokia, right? I thought, if I worked at Nokia, I was on the board, I would have been firing people on the spot. Yeah. I would have been calling people at home telling them, you don't have a job on Monday. Apple historically known for not taking markets, just got up and called us out in the keynote.
Yeah.
He just said, we're bigger than them too.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, so you look at these companies, and I think, kudos to Apple. I mean, I used to work there in R&D. A lot of people think that made me prejudiced. We're platform agnostic here.
Yep.
I've always been that way in my technology. I own a Windows computer and 6 Linux computers and several Macs and,
Open source Crusader. Yeah.
Absolutely. I believe I use the best tool for the job, right? And so, kudos to Apple for the position they're in and for keeping it. I mean, iPhone 4.0 that they just announced this week. We have some guys out at WWDC. I was on my little vacation speech, as everybody around here called it.
Yes.
So, like, we need you
5-pound lobsters, and yeah.
Yeah, I accidentally sent a picture to one of the co-founders. He was like, yes, it seems like you're working incredibly hard right now.
Yeah. How do we get your job?
But with the iPhone 4.0, I mean, come on, nobody saw this coming. A new screen. Yeah. It does and we even had the leak to give everybody the warning. Yeah. Every company that competed with them should have already been positioning, but they'll wait. They take this wait and see attitude. And if you wait and see with Apple right now, you're in incredible trouble because they are not waiting and seeing. What do we get? An iPhone every year now? I mean, it's pretty much what they've done, right?
Every June.
They went through the calendar, and every June it's like we get a new iPhone, and they totally reinvent it. Yeah. It does 720p video that I can use iMovie for iPhone to edit.
But HD in the hand like that is unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
With editing.
Yeah.
It's incredible, and it's like, but is that idea that complex?
No. But what always surprised me, at least it did with the reaction that people got from this, was, the day before the new iPhone was announced, or the day before Steve Jobs got up on stage and went through this entire presentation, it was all about Android. It was all about, there's no way that this thing can compete with Android. There's no way that whatever they come out with is going to be better than Android. There's, Android's dominating it, blah, blah, blah. The moment after, it was like, well, Apple won. Apple just won.
Right. They just killed Android.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, technology press, where have you guys been, right?
Every year it's the same conversation, right?
I'll comment on Android. We do work on Android.
Yep.
Okay. I love Google. Google's not the biggest fan of me. All right. I've been a critic. However, I will tell you this. Every speech I give, there's a question about Android. Yeah. Everybody wants to know. Yeah. It's taken over the market. It's doing all of this stuff. The fact is, 9% is not taking over the market. How quick they got to 9% is, but it's delusional, right? It's an illusion of the market. And the reason it's an illusion is Google set out to build the Linux of mobile. Yeah. Good news, Rob, they did.
Yep.
Okay. Now, as an open source guy, bad news, they did. Okay. All they're doing is vendors are now taking Android and turning features off and using it for vendor lock-in on phones and doing all this stuff, which is, Steve has killed that. That doesn't go anymore. I mean, even in his keynote this week, he got up and said, when we first did this, this is what the world looked like. Carriers, and you couldn't this, and you couldn't that. He killed it. And look at what Windows Phone is doing. Yeah. You read about Windows Phone, they're making all the hardware providers make the exact same hardware. Oh, yeah. They cannot touch the software. It's the same user experience across it, which is brilliant on their part, okay?
Well, they made the mistake of opening it up to multiple platforms, multiple endpoint devices. Like, they made that mistake already.
Absolutely. So what we see is Android is repeating mistakes of the past in both the mobile space and in the open source space. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, programming-wise, I feel that Android is possibly the best stack to develop to out of everything. It's very well thought through. Incredible work that they've done. However, they're making all these predictable mistakes. And what will happen is, the further Steve gets going in this way, the more Windows is going to follow him. Yes. And Apple and Microsoft, now that the two companies vote, I don't know what the valuation is today, but they're $230 to $240 billion in market cap. Okay, for those two guys each. Okay, so $500 billion if you put it into perspective. They're going to shape the market a lot. I mean, Microsoft, I'm curious as to see, I don't think it'll be a two-horse race. I think Android will still survive. But I think the phones selling on Android are selling to a different customer. Yeah. They're selling to that customer that hasn't been awakened to I shouldn't allow my phone carrier to dominate my life, right? Yeah. And to put that into perspective from a market perspective, let's think 2007, so 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's 5 years. What's going to happen in 5 years? Right as iPhone might be declining, and I don't see it declining, they're going to make it available on everything.
Yeah.
What's going to happen when you can buy an iPhone on Verizon?
Yeah.
Just that alone.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to make it really interesting.
Well, they're still doing 100,000 3GS buys a week, right? Or a day? No, a day. 100,000.
They sold their 100 millionth iPhone OS device.
It's incredible. But now let me ask you this: I'm Canadian, right? I've carried a Blackberry before, but it doesn't come into the conversation about this. And why not?
It comes into our conversation. I'll tell you why. Because I went to Waterloo. I talked to some people. Okay, I would love to work. Blackberry hired an amazing. It's a guy who did Mac OS and Windows Vista.
Yep.
Amazing guy to do design. I don't know what he's doing. I worry that he's been hidden away in some dark corner or something. BlackBerry is still the #1 dominant platform on the planet.
Yeah.
By a fair amount.
Yep.
Apple's catching up, but there's still, it's one of those things. Think about it this way: nature holds us back in all ways, and the marketing and getting that market share is no different. What I mean by that, I wrote a blog post at my last job called the Bugatti Principle. I talked about the Bugatti Veyron and how it goes so fast. When they first went to build the Veyron, I don't know if you know the story.
Yeah.
They went to the Sauber F1 team and they said, "Hey, we need to use your wind tunnel." And they said, "Well, it doesn't actually go that fast, right? Because it's a production car that will go faster than a Formula One car."
Yeah.
Okay. And your car has one radiator and it has 10, and it runs out of gas in 5 minutes or whatever at its top speed, which doesn't matter because in 3 minutes the tires will melt off the damn. So scale is a really, really interesting thing in software and in sales. And so when you look at scale and you think about, okay, iPhone's eating up all of that, and Android's kind of eating up on iPhone. What does BlackBerry have? Well, they have an entrenched user base of people. Some people that will just never switch. Yep. Getting from 25 or 28% or whatever Steve said it was to the 32%, that becomes harder. That's not you're just kind of going along. That goes like this, and the further they get up that path, the more it looks like a steep wall. Yep. So it's going to be really interesting. I would love to work more closely with BlackBerry. I think that they need to reinvigorate their developer programs. I think that it would be interesting talking to their CEOs, right? A lot of people don't know, they got 2 CEOs, and you hear a lot of stories like, it's like, "Man, we love you," and you're like, and I've never met them. I don't know. I went out there and talked to some people. I'm interested in helping them on the platform, but who knows what's going to happen? I mean, I feel like they're not reaching out to the development community enough. I think they're not doing enough programs. I know Microsoft is very much watching Apple and taking pages from their book and taking an Xbox team that knows more about mass adoption of consumer technology than arguably anybody on the planet.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, those guys know their business, and they're really doing it. And so you look at RIM and you say, well, the BlackBerry folks over at RIM, they don't have some other product. It's all they do. They know business very well. But business is changing. They're from a world where, and I've always hated this my entire career, people say it's enterprise software.
Yeah.
Oh, that's consumer software.
Yeah.
Listen, let me tell you what. If I'm traveling anywhere, New York, the Hamptons, California for ARE, right? Any of that stuff. And I go and I click on the app for Bank of America, and it doesn't instantly show me exactly how much money is in my account, or if my latest check got deposited, or if I made that transfer into savings for my kid. If it doesn't tell me whatever I'm using that app for instantly, that's mission critical, guys.
Yeah.
That's just as mission critical to me as an individual as anything you could imagine, on the enterprise side.
Absolutely.
And so I think they're still in that kind of enterprise mentality, not realizing that when the CEO goes home at night, his kid says, "Daddy, can I play with your phone?"
Yeah.
"Mommy, can I play with your phone?" Right? That CEO, especially the female CEOs, so much more connected to their kids than the male CEOs, in my opinion. They're still doing the being really, really great parents. They take that BlackBerry home, and the kid says, "Hey, can I play?" It's like, oh, you can't. Do you want
you can't.
Else for mommy? I mean, the people have more than one function in life, and I think that's where Apple's hit it. I mean, we saw in their announcement today they really hit on some enterprise features. Yep. That's also where Microsoft has an advantage.
Absolutely, entrenched.
Knowing the consumer, being hugely entrenched in business, and they can really, I think, if they combine those two right, it's like a magic sword. Do I think they're going to kill Apple? I'm going to tell you right now, Steve could stop making iPhone technology advancements for a year or two, and there'd be so much inertia behind that, it'd be hard to catch up. Yeah. So I don't think you're going to see any major market shifts for a while. And with the Android stuff, it's like you said, the press is like, Apple's dead, Android is great. Hope you got something good, Steve.
Exactly. And then it's like Android's dead, Apple's back.
Right. It's like, wow, that took 24 hours.
It was such a turnaround, and speculation always happens around these things. But I'm not shocked. But I'm not shocked at what happened. But I'm just so shocked that people are so limited in their memory. You mark it down on the calendar. I'm going to put this out there that I think that what we'll see in June of 2011 is another iPhone. And yeah. I know it's risky for me to say this.
Risky.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I want to bet against you, but you just could be crazy enough to be right.
I have a feeling about it, and I think maybe sometime before that, maybe 3 months or 2 months before that, we're going to see some kind of new iPad coming out as well, right? I think that I'm getting the sense that there's a yearly cycle here.
It could be, and that's the thing is, people, they have such short memories. I mean, something's going to happen with Android or with Windows Phone, and everybody say, "Oh, it's a new iPhone killer." Yeah. Stop thinking that way. Yeah. Let me tell you what we do. Okay, a bunch of experienced technologists. When we go to make an app for ourselves or for customer, we don't go, "It'll be like that one." Like that's the one. We build something from the ground up with what we want it to do, win or lose, having talked to our customers, having understood them, and we deliver that to market. That's the difference right now between Apple and everybody else so far today. Okay, except with the exception of Apple's famous for not doing focus groups, right? They just kind of tell you what the product should be. Yeah. But that's what they've done. They're in tune. They're in tune with that, right? They've set a new agenda in the mobile space.
Yeah. Well, they tell you what you want, and then you realize it. You realize it a number of days later, right? You say, "It is what I want."
Well, there's nothing. I'm going to send you that picture. You can post it on the interview for yours. Yeah. I'm on the plane, okay, and I talked about this earlier. Beside me is this woman. Across the aisle is her husband reading a book. In the far window seat, okay, on this JetBlue flight is their 22-month-old daughter with her iPad. Yeah. Not her dad's, not her mom's. They bought it for her. It's an entertainment, edutainment device. Yeah. Okay, and dad's reading a book. And I say, well, can I take a photo? And it's sure. And I say, well, can I talk to the kid? And she's showing me how to do everything. She's home button, boom, here's an app, doing this, right? Battery gets low. She's like, Daddy, battery, get some power in this thing, okay? And you have to look at that and say, that's the power of that paradigm shift is a 22-month-old knows more about using the iPad than
the dad. Yeah.
The dad's reading a book. Yeah. He had a problem. He gave it to mom to figure out the problem, right? But the 22-year-old was 22-month-old was trying to correct them. Yeah. 22 months. I mean, the picture says it all. I have one of her pressing at the bottom of the screen and one of her pressing at the top, and it really sums it up.
Let me add to this story, really, is that I have an iPad and an iPhone, and I was a BlackBerry carrier before that, and I have 3.5-year-old twins, and so I would do a litmus test. I would hand them the BlackBerry, and then they would be able to hit the pearl button in the middle and turn the light on and off, and they were fascinated by that. I hand them the iPhone, and they turn it on, one button, slide it, and they're in there, and they're using it. And now, the paradigm that I see is that they take away my iPad, and I never see it until the battery dies.
I have developers that do the same thing.
But the paradigm is that they walk up to anything with a screen now and swipe. They swipe it because they want to figure out how to...
The TV's a swipe. Everything's a swipe.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right. In fact, What's funny is on another flight on JetBlue, they have those TV monitors in the back, and there was a kid that couldn't reach it. It was just doing this hand motion. He was upset that their dad wouldn't swipe, and he was pointing at the little control panel in the armrest.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you do it here. Completely confused, have no idea how to use it.
Yeah, you don't. Gone are remote controls, right? You
right.
Don't have. Well, I wanted to talk to you about the augmented reality event that you were in Santa Clara. Do you have a few more minutes to talk about that? Because I'm very. I mean, this is obviously. When you talk about the hardware layer like we have around the platforms, certainly the software layer is as important. And what's coming down the road, I think, is this world of augmented reality, Google goggles, these things that enhance real life or give us real-time information from the device, by pointing the device at a building or a QR code or something as we move forward. So what was this event this is something that you organized or were you speaking at?
So I came up with this concept, and I got a couple of people I was working with together, and we did this event in Santa Clara called the Augmented Reality Event because A, we're marketing geniuses.
It's a perfect name.
And B, there was no other domain name available. So it's like Homer Simpson, right, where he made his company and it was like super mega global whatever because it was
exactly.
last domain. Or what was it in Futurama where they found the poppers or whatever? There are only 2 domains left in the entire universe.
Yep.
So we picked that. So the event was great. We pulled together about 90 speakers who were the thought leaders in this space. And we called kind of on the the Worley and Friends Rolodex and their Rolodex, and we had some great keynotes. So Bruce Sterling was our morning keynote, the sci-fi author. Yep. Fantastic. And if you listen to him, he says, if you're in mobile and you're in AR, it's like, get your rock star clothes on, go to LA, go to Hollywood. These are the places. This makes technology sexy. Yep. This is it, right? That's kind of the summation of what he had to say. Will Wright, was one of our speakers. Amazing mind, fantastic guy, and he had some other opinions. His presentation just killed. It was great. And then Jesse Schell was another one of our keynotes, and his presentation was kind of like, watch what Pandora's box you're opening, and he used the example of which I thought was great. He talked about vision, and he used the old movie Mr. X or Dr. X, and he talked about you have to watch what you wish for, and he was like, one of his funny statements that made a bunch of people laugh was he was like, yeah, you can see every information about everybody all the time. He's like, whoops, we're augmented reality. Sorry about the police state.
Yeah, exactly.
It was pretty funny. A lot of people were like, I hadn't thought about that before. And then Blaze from Microsoft demoed the Bing maps and the AR stuff they're doing. And those were just the keynotes, and the meat of it was in 80 plus other speakers that talked about everything you can imagine on a variety of panels and presentations. We had an augmented reality art gala that was sponsored by Adobe that had all of this different art, and Eric Gradman was there, and he's got this amazing display where you walk up to it and it reads off your badge what your Twitter ID is, and it puts your tweets up above your head as like little thought bubbles and does all this other cool stuff. And there was a lot of discussion about a number of things, a lot of open discussion. Augmented reality, though, it's not there. I wrote a piece for Business Week, an op-ed called "Augmented Reality: Getting Over the Hype," and the example I used in it, and I like to use this one everywhere, is I was in a coffee shop and I was doing the nerd thing, looking through my phone, and which is a great user interface to walk around like this everywhere.
Exactly.
And I'm looking through and looking for a bank or whatever. I forget what I used in the demo. And there's these 2 just beautiful young ladies studying away for their masters in front of me, and somewhere 2.6 miles through the wall and down the cliff and everything is this bank, right? And so my argument was, that's useless because I also love doing it when I'm giving a presentation at a hotel where they have the nice big, it's like 30 or 40 stories, and they have the nice big conference center at the top.
Yep.
And say, so here's what we do: we just go through that window and down. And then we're there. Apologize, my battery's gonna go out on us. 1 second, my cord's way over there. Can you give me one moment?
I can, yeah.
Let me get my cord. It's not gone.
I'll just sing while we do this.
I just have to get it plugged in here.
All right.
I had to move completely to a different plug.
Or you could just turn it around and show us what's on the whiteboards.
We have, yeah, did it? No, we're not doing that. I will tell you, we do have several releases this week, so that's good. On average, we probably do about a dozen major apps a month. So
that's incredible. Like,
yeah, well,
that's incredible. I mean, you know,
that requires no sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
A team of individuals, but as far as augmented reality goes, you know, I give that example. You know, you're in the top of the hotel. It's like, well, if we just go through that window and fall 40 stories, and then walk through buildings for a mile, there's Starbucks. And
yeah.
It's really funny. People don't think about that. They don't really consider the ramifications of that. But if I take the augmented reality app and I turn it down on its side, it pulls up Google Maps.
Yeah.
And I would argue those are 1,000 times more useful because they tell me where to go around things and where to take a bus and how to drive or how to walk. You know, and it's like that's useful data. And so a lot of the augmented reality we're seeing just simply isn't, you know, that useful.
Well, it isn't, and I think that you know, what do you think about this about Google goggles? I mean, I think augmented reality to me is, you know, the first place that you're going to see really effective use of augmented reality is going to be in the automobile, right? So you'll have a transparent screen; it can tell you what's around you.
I'm sorry, I'm not in the automobile industry.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I think you're right. We already have, right? Cadillacs have had the heads-up infrared display for a while now.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of those. We did a video. I don't know if you got to see it.
I saw it. It's great.
On our website.
Yeah.
So you know, if you go wherever to our What's the Buzz section and we put in a blog post, we work with Common Craft guys and Leela Fever, you know, and his wife Sasha. They're just great.
Wow, that's an amazing video.
Simple. Well, people were like, it's really dumbed down, right?
Yeah.
But you know, if you Google chaotic moon augmented reality, I'm sure you'll find it. But that's what people need to know is like that's the basis of it, and it has a long way to go. Do you want to see a prototype? Do you want to see some useful augmented reality?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
I have to go get it in lab. See, this is the benefit of being a founder. Here's where I get in trouble, right? Everything.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me go grab someone's phone. All right. We have one of our prototype phones here. So let's see how I'm going to try to figure out how to do this because I have to do it backwards now, so it's weird. Where is this? They said, oh, don't worry, it's right there.
Yes.
And then Ben goes, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, so here's useful augmented reality. I have to figure out how I'm going to do this backwards. Okay, this is a prototype. Can you see it?
Yep.
This is a prototype of an app called Colorade. It's coming out in a couple weeks. We may hold it for up to a month for a promotion with some national groups. But here's what the app does. This app allows people to see, basically colorblind people to see, i.e. recognize color.
You got a call coming in there.
Yeah.
Is it?
That's coming in from that's a sales call that just rolled over to me. So it allows colorblind people to see color. So what you'll see is when I'm rubbing, I hit the home button. When I run my finger across, and we're making it an AR targeting system, you'll see over there, right here where my finger's pointing.
Yep.
So all these colors, right?
Yep.
So basically what we've done is we've taken this, we've made a really unique app to where it's got a targeting system. It allows colorblind people to just look around, and it tells them what these colors are. Red or blue or green. It also has an educational feature, which is it shows you and I what they see. So what green boost looks like, or red boost, or green blind or red blind, right?
Wow.
So it works as kind of an educational tool. It's going to be a free app, okay? It's going to come out on Android and iPhone. It'll come out on iPhone 4. So we're really interested in. We should have our 4.0 phones very soon.
Yeah.
There's phones everywhere that I can't talk about in this building, but I don't have one until I have one, since myself and Jason Job are the guys, along with a guy named Marty Pico, who's the original creator of the idea, are working on it. So until the three of us have them, it goes nowhere on 4.0.
Yeah.
Hopefully everybody out there is listening. It's really neat, but that's a use, that's a use for augmented reality. Yes. That's something to us that is much more useful. It's taking someone, and this is what technology should do, that has a disability, and it's creating a way to equalize it through technology. Yeah. And so you and I take it for granted. People will see what we just showed, and they'll say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Who cares about, whatever color, they'll say, oh, that's kind of, it's a trick, it's incredibly important. There are 300 million, the numbers we were given, colorblind people in the world. All right? The percentage of them that own iPhones, you would be surprised. Here's what would really surprise you in the research. The percentage of them that are software engineers.
Really? Oh.
We had everybody go to an optometrist.
Just to make sure.
Well, there have been a couple of decisions where we're like, I really don't like that much. The artist's like, that art does not look good. I'm like, looks fine to me, right? So then when we found this out, we were just like, everybody's getting an eye test.
No kidding. Well, but this is your own IP. This is a product that you guys are developing. And,
yep.
And, I mean, it's exactly the right first step, right? Which is a simple first step that addresses a really important market, right?
Absolutely.
And it's easy to use. And I mean, you've done your research on it. There's a number of people that, like, 300 million is a large number.
Well, we're doing some really, really amazing stuff with in the AR space. We basically have a small R&D lab here, a team of about 5 people that work in there full time, just doing like kind of really far-reaching stuff. And so the stuff they're doing, which we'll obviously we'll talk to you about another time, is amazing. And I alluded to some of it at the AR conference, and some of that may be on video, but we'll let people go watch those videos if they really want to find out. But augmented reality, it's the next version of mobile, right? Everybody thinks it's going to be billions of dollars a market, and there's going to be this gold rush and all this stuff. The reality is augmented reality isn't a market. It's a technology, and it's a technology that goes across all markets. So, these people that have these augmented reality companies, yes, maybe they survive in the long term. Maybe they don't, because we're just all doing it like the internet, right? Yep. And my big complaint with augmented reality, and I said this at the conference, was augmented reality needs its TCP/IP. People don't understand. Nobody made money off TCP/IP. They tried to, and that's why the internet never took off. Yep. At the point where they said, we'll just let everybody have IP address space. Then everybody built a ton of stuff on top of it and made billions of dollars. Yep. Okay, augmented reality needs the same thing. And I'm working with a group, a global group that we met at the conference on kind of open sourcing AR and starting in the mobile space. And we should have some announcements on that, and probably over the summer, because there's a ton of work to do, and it's a heavy patented space. You got to be real careful that you don't instantly get yourself in some firefight that your new fledgling open source group of 40 guys can't. Everybody's like, whoa, now I don't know about participating.
Shut it down. I mean, when is it, Worley, that you actually do sleep? Like, it just seems like to me that this is.
Well, somebody sent me this funny thing they thought it was funny, which was there's a Twitter service that says, when do they sleep?
Yeah.
Sends it on tweets, and they're like, look, you're sleeping like 18 hours a day. And I was like, that's hilarious. This week and in the last few weeks I've been in dozens of cities. This week I slept for 3 hours flying from JFK to Austin, and then I got home, and we have developers all over the world we work with, and brands and companies all over the world. We have a couple of customers in mainland China and in Turkey and some other places where, Ho Chi Minh City, for example, we have a customer there, and they're 12 hours ahead of us in Austin. Yeah. So midnight is like lunch break. So it's like, let's do a call in the afternoon. And what they mean by afternoon is 3 a.m. here.
It's their afternoon, exactly.
Right. If they say late afternoon, then that really means early evening. So that's like 6 a.m. So maybe you can go to bed and try to pick up. Oh my God. Yeah, on average, I'm probably sleeping 2 to 3 hours a night. We do have regular medical checkups here.
That's great.
To make sure everybody's good. But it's a time to live in. I mean, you have to understand. Kinetic Moon started on January 15th of this year.
Yeah.
Right. It's June.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? it's like what we've done and how far we've come, and all of this stuff is insane. And you know, back to the augmented reality, there's a new app. I was just going to check and see on this phone, which should have not my phone. So let's see here. Oh no, I want the app updates. So this would be great if this app was out, because it's not on here. But we just updated an amazing app for one of our customers, and we're like in a 3G cave. What's this one? Ah, it is. Check it out. It's out. I can show it to you. So this app is called FlightAware.
Yep.
It's a brand new version. We just did it for them. If I can remember the password while we're talking, it'll download. And I'll show you something that a lot of people wouldn't consider augmented reality. But we have a very broad definition of augmented reality here.
Yeah.
And the definition is, does it augment your reality? It doesn't mean looking through it. You know, it can be sound, and it can be sight, and it can be all of these different things. You know, if the gardener's outside, you know, we're laying a bunch of manure for all the plants, and we had a magic app that would make it smell like roses, you know, would that be augmenting your reality? Probably so, right? So we take a pretty good approach, and this, I don't know why it's downloading so slow, but hopefully it'll be downloaded. I'll show you in a minute. Basically, if it doesn't, I'll tell you what it does, which is it takes all the FAA data and it shows it to you on your iPhone in real time. And so you can search for flights and tail numbers and all this stuff. What's fantastic about it is the guys at FlightAware, they just run an amazing business. They worked with the team here at Chaotic Moon to come up with a nearby feature. When you hit the nearby feature, it actually shows you a Google map, and it shows you all the planes in the air above you, right where they're at. And you can click on them and see, this is Southwest flight at 700 feet that's landing, and you can click on that and pull up, here's the airspeed and the this and the that. It's really, really, really cool.
That's amazing.
If it's also downloading really slow.
Yeah.
So, but that's one of the releases for this week that has something that we consider augmented reality. Because like, do you know where the planes are above you right now? So okay, well, maybe it is. You know, and there might be an Easter egg coming that might, you know, maybe we're really not big on this as a user interface. To be blunt, you can do the interview that way, right?
That's exactly. Well, I will be with the iOS 4.
Yeah. So what we could do, you know, think about it. You know, somebody said, well, you could look at people and get data. So so your users are seeing what that'd be like right now. This is me, like, oh look, it's Rob. You know, he's got an awesome internet TV show. He's going to do an interview with me. Oh, look, here's a list of questions and stuff. It's like this is a bad interface, right? It
doesn't work.
It's just bad. You know, it's just bad design.
Well, but that's where everybody's focused right now on augmented reality. It is like it's the product layer, right? Where you're basically looking through this little screen, and I think that when the novelty wears off, you realize that it's just it's easier to just do a Google Maps search, right?
Yep, absolutely. Well, the data has to be really compelling, and more importantly, it has to tie in visually, right? When I'm using those apps and I'm looking around, 9 miles that way, 3.9 miles, that's not used. You know, my argument is those apps only become useful when it's line of sight.
Yeah.
When I can look, you know, down the street and see the Starbucks is down there, and I'm walking closer to it and I can see the sign. You know, when I can look at a historical monument and get data on it. We're doing a project with a network doing that, where you look at mile markers and it plays it plays you a movie, right? Yeah. So there are things that you can do. There are things that have value in that area. But again, finding the Starbucks, it's not it. Finding a gas station, also not it. It's like somebody said, you know, I was at an event and they said, actually it was at the Politics Online conference. So I was there. I spoke to some members of Congress about augmented reality, which was an interesting experience. I've done that before, but never on something where I was just like, and really, why do you want to know? Here's why: canvassing. Yes. Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, right? Okay, so it dawned on me later why. But I did a panel that was broadcast on C-SPAN on kind of, you know, AR and fancified tools. And afterwards, we were talking to people, and somebody said, you know, I use this app. You know, and I don't want to say what the name is because I don't want to appear to be criticizing anybody because we're super friendly guys here. But he said, I use this app, and I was going through Arizona, And I looked around, I'd run out of gas, and said, "There's a gas station." I was like, I was able to get there. And my question was, not to be a smartass, was like, so you were in the desert somewhere, and how far was it? He was like, it was like 12 miles. Okay, unfortunately they were in an RV and they had a little car that they, drove. And he's like, we just drove right across the desert. It's like, well, okay, maybe in that one instance it might have kind of been useful, but perhaps you could have also used the phone for the amazing call feature.
The killer app of a phone is still voice, right?
The killer app on the phone. So I'm putting in my password. We're going to see who's flying above us here. I can't remember if I just use like 5,000 passwords. Unfortunately, we work with a lot. We also do a lot of other work for different agencies, if you will, that aren't ad agencies, and so I get everything super extra double secured. Let me see. Oh, there it is. I had a typo. A typo in my username. That's what I do wish for sometimes. Bigger buttons on the type pad on the iPhone.
Yeah, that's where the iPad comes in, but it's not. It's not as portable.
And then they're spread out kind of weird. But it's like I kind of wish. Okay, so here's the new released FlightAware. Here's the.
Yep.
Can you see that? Okay. All right. So you can do all kind of stuff. But if I click nearby, and then it's I'm in a bad 3G zone, but it'll load up the map, and then there are the planes. And let me scroll out a little more. Oops. This will be. I'm going to scroll out a lot for us. So pinch out.
Holy cow!
That's right. Yeah. So if we zoom in here, and we say here's one that's going out of Austin, and you see we have that little info tag on the plane.
Yeah.
And if we pull that up, and that plane is right there. It's too high for me to see because if we look at the detail, right now it's at 19,000 feet, and so there's the information on the plane. Where it's going from, where it's going to, and this little blue bar at the bottom is how far. So it's coming to Austin. It's supposed to land here in just a few minutes. So the blue bar is filled. So it's in its final descent, and then it can tell you all manner of things. It's going 270 knots. The duration of the flight was 2.2 hours. Some pretty interesting stuff. But again, think about it from an AR perspective. Would you ever imagine that right now above our heads, I'm at here in Austin, are all of those planes? Just
incredible.
From changing your perspective. You know what I mean? It's amazing. It really is.
Well, I mean, and it's such a simple tool that I live over a flight pattern, and I think that my kids are fascinated with planes like these, and we just never know where they're going or what they're doing, and it's a simple tool. It's like we've seen this with the on a few of the iPad apps that unveil, like the augmented reality to me as well, even on the iPad is that application, and now I've totally lost it, but it shows the it's Star Walk.
Yes.
Right, where you hold it up. It's still that interface that you don't like very much, but at least it's based on reality. So I hold it up and there's Mars, right?
But let me tell you when that interface would be useful. Have you seen the Samsung and the other companies that are doing these MLED displays that are transparent?
Right, yeah.
Man, that will be useful. Yeah. Well, my iPad has a transparent display, and I do that. That is just going to be incredible. Oh. So I'm not trying to smash it. I'm not trying to say it's not great or not wonderful. It's not the best right now. It's not the best interface. It's not the best way to do things. Hang on 1 second.
Yeah.
Somebody is offering. This is kind of funny. I can't turn it because there's whiteboards, but there's somebody standing at my window with an iPad. And they're like, "Do you need an iPad?" What?
Did you need this?
No.
I just heard iPad when I was walking by. I was like,
"That's great service. I love that."
This is your iPad. Only it's hacked because I have. We have that new framework running on it. So.
Okay. Well, thanks for breaking another iPad.
I thought that's what you were talking about.
No. That's okay. That's okay. Thanks.
Sorry, man.
That's perfect. If I say latte loud enough, will you get one of those as well?
He said, he just laughed and said no.
Okay.
Somebody was walking down the hall and heard iPad, and they were like, "Do you need an iPad?"
Throw it this way.
I'm the one guy who doesn't have one. I mean, I actually technically own 2 or 3, maybe a dozen of them here, but all the engineers have them. And the artists are starting to be like, really, I need to really see it on the iPad to make sure that so you want an iPad. Well, no, it's not that I want an iPad. It's just that, I mean, it's useful to see it in the frame and the context of here, take it.
I'll just go down to the Apple store and buy another one. Well, I'm very conscious of your time, Worley. As I said at the beginning, I think that I could probably speak to you for the rest of the afternoon, and I'm pretty sure that anybody watching and listening could listen and watch you for the rest of the afternoon. But cognizant of the fact that you could also be sleeping. Right? And I don't want to take anything away from that.
Earlier, I thought I was teasing with one of my co-founders. I said, "Hey, I think I'm going to take a nap before the interview." So so it'll make more sense. I'm feeling kind of like in that lucid, haven't slept in days state. And they're like, "No, it'll be much better if you just do it that way."
And it has been. I mean, usually there's a natural end in the conversation, and I wrap things up, but there isn't, and there won't be. So
we'll do part 2. You can just let me know when you want to schedule it and what you want to talk about.
I would love to do that. I would love to do that because I'm fascinated. The PR company that you use and who I was speaking with said you'll love Worley. We all do, and now I understand.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I have to make sure they got paid this month.
That's right.
No, but on a serious note, we appreciate what you're doing, Rob, because again, we're not a company, we're a community, and there's a huge difference. And you're part of that community, and talking about these topics and these frank discussions about stuff. And I've watched all the interviews that are available, right? And I did. And here's a great thing: I didn't watch them in preparation for this interview. I watched them the moment I saw your thing come out on Haro. I was like, man, this is great for mobile developers, for people who are mobile entrepreneurs in general, right? And so, it's like you deserve kudos for the work you do and kind of bringing to light a bunch of these different companies. And, I can't say who, but somebody I think you interviewed with, we're acquiring next week. Nice. So thank you for discovering them for us.
Nice. I love it.
But that's the kind of thing is the community, we need a strong mobile community. And we need to skip over those internet days you talked about and get to a point where people can make a decent living and be treated right and be treated with respect and work with each other. We meet a lot of people in the mobile space that are just fantastic. And there's a few of those people that, there's some we call app trolls, which are people who are trying to take advantage of people's apps or whatever. And it's kind of sickening to us. But it's also it's just disheartening because it's like, well, why would you treat a person that way, right? Why would you treat a developer that way? Why would you treat a potential customer that way? Why would you treat your end users that way with making decisions that aren't in their best interest, or you're going to do something you're not going to support or whatever? And so, again, we see it as a community, and some of those members of the community are people like yourself, and you're doing a tremendous job in kind of getting the mobile message out and making a lot of information available. And others are our customers and our users, and that 22-month-old that I spent 30 minutes with on the plane. It was funny on my slide deck when I was giving the little presentation for Alan's Peeps. I had a slide that said, "Oh, I talked to our customers. I've talked to every single one of them." I was like, the only problem is, next slide is like, some of our customers can't actually talk. and it was great. But we're looking at, we're not building a company, we're building a community, and it's going to last much longer than a company would. We're gonna that 22-month-old knows the Chaotic Moon logo. We gave the parents some free apps and stuff, and some beta apps that she could play with. When she's 5, she's still going to be using an iPad. When she's 10, when she's 16, when she's 20, that's the kind of environment that we're building here. It's something that's going to last a long time, and we're going to grow up alongside her as her tendencies to use apps change, as she evolves in her thinking and her needs and things like that. We're going to grow right alongside all of our customers, but especially those younger customers, so that we keep learning, so that we're keep changing our thinking, so that we're we're like, okay, this is the way it's done now, because we all know that, right? You know, it's like we all have the relative, the older relative who still can't use the VCR now, you know, once DVD, now Blu-ray player, right? It's like, why do I need to buy a new disc, right? And you're like, but you should just download it on your Xbox through Netflix, right? And that's like a whole other world. It's like we want, you know, we really see a tremendous advantage in being able to grow alongside those customers, and whether they're a major brand or a 22-month-old with an iPad.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you on this. Is that, and the reason I do these shows is to democratize this information, is to make sure that people can start and make a living doing this, because it's like you. I love the industry. I love mobile, and it is a you know, where else would you get exposed to this kind of innovation, this kind of entrepreneurship, and this kind of person? Except for doing this, and it's phenomenal. Or doing what you're doing. I
don't think I would have met many 22-month-old children that I would have tried to have a talk to.
Conversation with.
Now, do you like this color or that color?
Yeah, exactly.
The big button. Is that what you're talking about? No. Was it the sound that it made? What do you know? You just like
exactly.
Really learning how to communicate in a completely new way. Yes, never would have happened had I not gotten into mobile.
Well, there you go. Well, look, again, man, I really appreciate you doing this. This has been unbelievable for me. It's been fascinating, and I will hit you up again to do this again relatively soon. And
you know what else you hit me up for? Anybody who's anybody in the mobile space, airspace, or whatever, some of these guys we know, a lot of these people are coming to us, we're collaborating on projects, we're helping people out with it. I mean, we're helping some of our competitors out when they're just like, hey, we're running into this unusual bug, and we saw that you have an app that kind of like, you know, we're sharing some code here and there where we can and doing some stuff. And so, you know, consider us a resource if you want to connect to anybody else, or you see us do a project with somebody, you want to talk to somebody who's not a mobile entrepreneur or an appreneur. There's somebody who's you know, a customer who, you know, what's their success, you know, let us know. And any resource we have is yours. And it goes for the entire community. You know, feel free to contact us. You know, are we here to own the mobile space? Absolutely. That's why we started this whole thing off.
Yeah.
You know, does that mean that we, you know, won't talk to you or help you just like we would anybody else? You know, absolutely not. We're a very open company. We're very open source based in our roots, and that's just kind of the attitude we have is, you know, kind of the good of the many, if you will, outweigh the good or the need of the few, right? So a bigger, better market is great for everyone involved, whether it's you with this project or us trying to build apps and do some amazing things in the augmented reality space.
Well, I'm with you 100% behind that, and I will call on you guys definitely, and anybody out there, do the same.
Anytime.
All right. Well, I've been speaking with Worley, who's the co-founder and the CTO of Chaotic Moon, one of many things, obviously, that you're involved with. And again, I really appreciate your time for doing this, and thanks very much for all of your insight. It's been a blast.
No problem. I really enjoyed it. You have a great day.
Okay. Thanks, Worley.
Peace.
Bye.